People need pleasure.
Yeah.
I think we live in a pretty pleasure negative experience.
Yeah.
A lot of shame.
A lot of shame, a lot of guilt.
I mean, I felt so much shame for so long about this stuff. I still feel shame. Like, doing this, starting this, and just being like, God, I have so much shame in my body.
Let that shit go and let the pleasure come on in.
Yeah, but it's programmed, right?
Yeah.
It's like deep in our culture and in our psyche. I can logically or like analytically talk about it, but it doesn't mean I don't feel it.
Pleasure is meant for women too.
Tell me about that.
I think guys are always the ones that are focused on coming, and women pretend.
Why?
They never find their pleasure.
Why do you think that is?
Because men are bad at focusing on women's pleasure.
Men are bad at focusing on women's pleasure. Tell me more. I don't think I'm bad at focusing on your pleasure.
Oh, I don't think so. I just mean a lot of men.
Where do you think Where do you think that comes from?
Culture, for sure. I think boys, especially in high school or, coming of age, it's natural to know that they're jerking off, right? Like, oh, he's just being a teenager. And I think if women are found out for masturbating or having sex with people, they're labeled as like sluts or whores, and it's not like a natural part of coming of age, but it is for men and it's not necessarily for women. People don't want to think about girls getting off with their vibrators as teenagers, and people naturally think of guys jerking off in their rooms as just like their rite of passage.
What do you think the solution is?
Make it sexy for girls to have their rite of passage into their own pleasure.
I mean, we live in a like hugely misogynistic culture.
Yeah.
That's right. Like, women are second-class citizens. At least that's how the government is what the message is.
Yeah.
It's a huge double standard.
Yeah. No. If a guy is like fucking 3 girls, he's like high-fived by his friends. If a girl's fucking 3 guys,
she's a slut.
She's shamed by her friends and society.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I think it's maybe a non sequitur, but like the reverse of that is like women. It's totally fine for women to be bi, and that's super sexy, and like really men are like, oh, bisexual women, right?
Right.
But the minute that men are like, bisexual men, like, oh fuck no. Like I watched a whole TikTok about it.
Yeah.
And it was like, is it okay if like women are bisexual? And all the dudes were like, yeah. And they were like, what if you wanted to be bisexual? And all the guys were like, and one guy was like, yeah, I think that's okay. And it was like they were so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And there's so many double standards.
Right.
They're not just, it's not just in like one arena.
Yeah.
And I think it's all shame, right? And it's like, oh, you'll be shamed if you are a woman and you have a exploratory sexual journey.
Right.
Because that's not. Well, but I also think that men are afraid of that because that's a woman in her power.
Yeah.
Being like, I take my pleasure and I do what I want. Fuck you. I think that's absolutely terrifying to men.
Yeah.
Like, people are terrified of you because you're like, I do what I want.
Of me?
Yeah, of you. Yeah. I've heard many people be like, yeah, there's so many people who are like, yo, Kalipi is terrifying. What do you think that is?
I don't know.
But you've been told that too, right?
Yeah. I'm not scary. I just want to help you get to your pleasure.
But I think the scary part is a woman who's like sexually autonomous and like and is like in their power. That's terrifying to men. Yeah. That's like someone who can like shame free and own their pleasure and just like not give a fuck. Like that's so triggering.
Yeah.
Because in many ways like that you are free.
Yeah.
Where I think a lot of other people are not. And to see that reflection is difficult. Be like, it's like I was recently doing, I don't know, some meditation, And the message was, anytime you judge another human, you're weaponizing your shame against them. You're actually just projecting the shame you have about your own experience onto others because they don't share that. And that's terrifying. And I was just like, fuck. Because I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
Fuck that person. Who do they think they are? They think they can just go fuck whoever they want and have a great time? Ew. I don't know. What's your experience?
With what?
Shame, pleasure, like finding your way to this experience where you can take up space in the way that you do.
Yeah, I think there was always a lot of shame when I was in a monogamous marriage for many years about hiding my bisexuality, the desire for people outside of my marriage, right? Or even the thought of having desire for other people, I think is shamed, especially in Christian Catholic culture, right? You should not, like, covet thy neighbor's wife, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to covet both of them. So I think it was very shameful to, it was like, these are the 10 commandments, and thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Well, what if she's a hottie? There was a lot of shame around that because nobody in my world or circle was poly or gay or bisexual, that was an option or a choice. You
Alpha
go
males.
to school, you get married,
Yeah.
you're gonna have kids, you become doctors and lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do what's expected, the elevator, and only eyes for him.
And I'm sure there were other people when you were married who were definitely coveting you, like his friends and like people in the community, like, look at that hot wife.
A lot of middle America marriages end because somebody is cheating, and maybe it was just a one-time thing, right? They've been married 12 years and they had one night that they got drunk and slept with the other neighbor. Who knows? You get drunk. And people would dissolve their entire marriages, their entire lives over the one night, right? And for me now, the way that I live, like if somebody makes a mistake around something that I do or don't consent to, that opens up a conversation. It's not like the end of an entire world that's built because of one night when somebody got drunk. So I think the shift from eyes for one human till now, where you don't have to be shamed for, at least if you're ethically and openly being honest about what you're doing. For the things that you're doing is a very different life because I have the opportunity to explore my bisexuality, my eyes for lots of people, or the love for more than one, and the ability to go to depths that I never did before, either through doming or subbing.
Yeah. I mean, I think the framework that you're touched on, is a restorative justice framework. Like if you make a mistake, not everything collapses.
Right.
But sometimes,
yeah,
right, that's a hard one. That's,
you have to be accountable for some of the things that you do.
You're not canceling someone because they made a mistake.
Right.
There needs to be a pathway for education and learning. When we have a more flexible, open experience where people are allowed to be human and make mistakes, and like maybe malintent was not the thing, right? It wasn't like it was just like a stupid fuck up, or like I'm new, or I don't know what I'm doing, or oops, right? And that cuts both ways, because that can also be used as a defense for shitty behavior. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing, right? And so that's a really nuanced and complex way to handle things. But I think things are nuanced and complex, so it's the appropriate way to handle things.
Yeah, and I think just knowing that we're all going to fuck up at some point in our life, and somebody on the receiving end may feel harmed regardless of your intentions, right?
Right. Actions do not equal intentions. And just because I wanted to do right doesn't mean I did. And the action is the thing that actually matters. Yeah,
and then once you can acknowledge that maybe there was some harm, then you can learn how to go into a repair process and actually understanding what a real repair process looks like. And I think, not a lot of people have that skill set.
But at what point are you like, this is worthy of a repair process? It's a very nuanced, complex thing to repair. And it is something that I wish everyone could engage in, but not everyone is emotionally there, or not everyone has the skill set.
I think people should try on both sides. I don't think there's a situation that you shouldn't necessarily try and repair. And I mean, I know many, but
you think you should always try and repair if possible?
Yeah. But sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes one or both parties aren't willing or ready. Or do they have the skill set?
I really don't know. I've had experiences of being able to repair things, and I've had experiences of not being able to repair things. Yeah. And I think, every scenario is different, and each level of that space of conflict, right? We're conflict avoidant.
Yeah.
And we have all these ways of avoiding conflict or stirring the pot without actually engaging in constructive repair work. It's hard to repair something, right? It requires a lot of vulnerability and a lot of accountability. And, especially as most humans, but male-bodied humans in the Western capitalist society, they have a very difficult time being yeah, that was my fault. I fucked up.
Yeah.
Right? Admitting fault and being I am not infallible, and actually I don't know what the fuck I'm doing and I fucked up, is incredibly difficult.
Oh yeah. I've seen people go to extreme lengths to not admit fault.
Yeah.
When it's just completely unnecessary. That the situation would be so much better if they were just you know what, I really fucked up. I didn't know what I was doing. How can we start to fix this?
Yeah.
Instead, it was just deny and victim blame. And go to very great lengths, right?
That's what we see in culture. That's what we see in Hollywood. That's what we see in Me Too. That's what we see in these celebrity lawsuits, is men just being I didn't do that.
Good.
She's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's usually people in power, so then they can just bury them financially or just tie them up in lawsuits forever or whatever. Look who's in office. Dude's never apologized once. He couldn't apologize. He does not have that in his DNA.
Yeah.
And that's who young people are seeing as the preeminent leader of, the Western world. That's not good. So how do we change that? How do we advance the conversation or start a new conversation?
I think you just start by educating people.
Okay, so if you could tell someone 3 tenets of repair, or 3 things to keep in mind, what would they be?
I would say stay open-minded. Learn to own your shit. And learn to let some things go.
That last one. Learn to let shit go. We don't know how to let it go. It's so hard to let go. We want revenge.
Yeah.
That's so deeply ingrained. You see it in Hollywood movies, and in TV shows, and then it's like revenge, an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
And like nobody wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is not the way.
No.
Repair work does not look like getting even. There's like the country songs where they like glorify like taking a baseball bat to, you know, your husband's car after he's cheating on you and like trying to murder somebody, right?
I mean,
like,
I think I think it's probably more constructive to take a baseball bat to your like lover's car, right? Like that, like that's probably not great, but I would rather you hit an inanimate object that represents someone than actually do real. That's not real harm. It's not.
Right.
Damaging property is not harm.
Sure, but or going after the other person.
That's
like,
right.
That's not okay.
No, I mean, and of course, like if someone slashed my tires because I cheated on them.
That's not what repair local.
No, that would be a bad day at the office, and I would be like, this sucks. Let's come back to the beginning and say, so like, why are we doing this work? If we just went all this round around repair and like fucked up culture shit, why is this work important right now?
Women need to step into their power and find their fucking pleasure through this fucking chaos of a long gone democracy.
Yeah. Men need to learn how to be submissive and like listen and like shut the fuck up and like not try to be in a position of dominance. You've met a lot of men who are just like incredibly thirsty and have no idea how to get their needs met.
Right.
And it comes out all fucking weird.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation many times, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, bro, chill. How do you think we combat that? Right? That's the thing is men are so starved for attention and sex that anytime an empowered woman is in the room, they like, their tongue is on the floor.
Yeah.
Right? Or you're just a complete cunt. It's either or. It's either like you're a bitch, CEO cunt, or you're like a sex object. And neither of those are equitable.
Yeah.
How do we like reprogram that?
It's fucked.
All right, you're done with this interview.
I want to be fucked, thank you. Two people getting high and be like, oh my god, that's a crazy high conversation.
High conversations with Kalipi and ADD conversations with Kalipi and other cat. All right, we're going to do this.
We're supposed to be doing a porn.
We talk about the levels of ADHD in this team. It's like, I don't know how we're getting anything done. Can we just have a conversation about that real quick? Like, can we talk about sex and ADHD? My sex drive is directly related to my ADHD.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. I'm just like the dopamine and like the pleasure centers in my brain that keep me focused and stable. And the novelty. What do you think?
Oh, my ADHD brain loves sex.
Tell me more.
It's a huge dopamine hit.
Yeah.
But also it drops me into my body that sometimes I can't achieve when I'm not in connection with somebody. I think having sex grounds me in a way.
Oh, yeah.
And then being poly, I think, ADHD, I'm like, ooh, look over here. Oh, look over here. And I'm allowed to look.
Yeah. Yeah. What's also interesting is like, given the option that I'm allowed to, it also becomes less of the forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
When I wasn't allowed to, the pull was much greater.
Yeah.
And maybe there was a transition period where I was like, wait, I'm allowed to? And then you're a kid in the candy shop.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, oh my God. But then you get a stomach ache or some shit happens. And it's like, oh, this isn't actually fun.
Yeah.
Right. This sucks.
when you first enter.
Yeah. And you
the
just
play party scene, you're like,
yeah. And then you're like, oh God. Yeah, totally.
Too much. Saying too much candy at the candy shop.
Yeah. I'm like, no, I don't. It's too much. It's too much. And humans are messy.
Yeah.
And we have to hold space for each other. And I think this work is like holding space for each other, for like the vulnerable parts.
The ADHD weirdo parts.
Yeah. 100%. I always wanted to like let the weird out. But then I was in these spaces that were like bro-y. They weren't queer spaces.
Yeah.
And I always felt out of place.
Yeah.
Queer spaces are under attack.
Yeah.
You know, because it's deeply threatening to people, the fluidity of it. People want to be able to be like, it's like this and this. There's men and there's women, and that's it. All right? Just fucking cool it. Like, knock it off with this other shit, right? It's too much for people. And like if reality is actually like fluid, you know, a lot of people's reality is very fixed, and it just breaks that model.
Yeah.
And that's too much for certain people's psychology. And it's met with extreme violence because it's just so fucking scary.
Yeah.
I think you have to have compassion for both sides. I think to like continue the polarization of the conversation is also not helpful. I think if you can begin to understand how scary it must be for someone, maybe you can begin to find compassion for their experience. I'm not saying I'm good at that, but like otherwise, like how do we make it work? How do we live in unison?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, but don't tell me how to live mine.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of trying to tell you how to live your life, right? I'm like, I want you to be in more integrity. I want you to go do your work. I want you to be accountable and compassionate. So in that way, like we kind of are. But I feel like, is that a better way of being than violent?
Absolutely. I mean, somebody just taking up arms just because they're afraid of a trans person going into the bathroom next to them.
It's fucking nuts.
They're gonna militialize themselves.
Yeah, but it's not about the trans person, right? I mean, it is. It 100% is. But also, it's my sense of reality. This is outside of my rigid, fixed reality.
Yeah.
And if this exists, then my reality can't be true. And so I have to destroy it so my reality stays true.
Yeah.
My view of the world is fixed, and there's no room for it to be any different. That's a hard way to fucking live.
Yeah.
Like, that is a incredible amount of suffering all the time. To just be rigid and stuck and fixed. Because there's nothing in this world that is fixed. Everything is changing all the time.
Yep.